Welcome back. We talked about value proposition being WH words and we did the notion. It will be good to dig deep a little bit onto that part, and that is what we are going to do in this session. I will step back a bit, take a feel of the board. We will come to each of these things, but it is a multi-step process, as you can see. So, the first step of creating a value proposition starts with your customer. The customer is everything. He is central to whatever you are doing, and never forget that no matter how big you grow, you are there to serve the customer. So, it starts with the customer. The first part, of course, is to identify customer segments. We briefly talked about it before, but understand what is a segment. Now, the segment and the target audience need not be the same. You may get your segment as, let us say, anyone who has a child reading in class 1 to 5, but not all of them may be your target audience, simply because you have an idea that not everyone needs them, one. Second, let us say that only people who are double working parents need it more, and that is what you will target. That is your target audience. That is basically focusing it more in detail, so that you do not do a lot of things just to coverage. The principle in life often is that 80% of your revenue will come from 20% of your customers. That is a broad thumb rule. Often it is 95-5 if it is a niche product. So, you need to focus and get that sweet spot from where maximum profit will come and take that as a target audience. That is the only broad thing I can tell about target audience. You have to sort it out for your own business, and every business is unique. No rules work, but it is important to know all the rules so that you get inspiration from those. Never ever be aloof to not listening to things, but always be clear that you are not copying anything without understanding it. The great story of Ganesha, when he and Vyash were collaborating to write the Ramayana and Mahabharata, the only condition between them was that Vyash cannot stop. That means he has to keep on producing, he is an entrepreneur, and if he stops, then all his worker, which is Ganesha, will leave. So, Vyash gave a statement that you cannot write anything without understanding it. So, when he needed some rest, he used to give a really tough sentence, and Ganesha would spend some time in understanding it, and in that time he would get some rest. So, be that person to make sure that you are always clear of getting what is needed onto that part. And then, after you have selected the target audience, it is important to create the personas. The personas somehow relate to the mind maps we said before. So, you create and say, what will the customer do? He will go this way, he will go that way, he will do this action. If he is not satisfied, where will he go? You essentially are imagining the entire journey of the customer with your product, right from discovery to purchase to usage and everything, and that is what are the different personas. You may have multiple personas. It may be the mother and father, and they are subtly different. So, you need to create two personas on the case that we are talking of. Let us say that you are creating an industrial machine which is for a replacement for lathe. Then someone who is doing smoothing versus someone who is doing grinding, they are different personas for you, because typically both of the person does not do it. Maybe your product will enable them to do it, but they will still start and initiate themselves from what they know. So, personas are very important, because you do not want to get into a hitch of the first time discarding. So, the problem is not having a treatment for each persona is that it may work great for one persona, which is your target audience. Now, this is, remember, the persona is from a target audience. So, you already got, you need all of them to buy them. If you do not have the persona, it will be difficult. For example, someone takes a selfie and someone shoots landscapes. You will test the phone by both checking the front camera and the back camera. They are two different personas. Maybe someone uses them, but someone takes more selfies, someone takes more panorama shots. You need to be prepared for them and have the interface ready. So, when you have the interface in your mobile, you are designing for that swivel logo, right, so that people can easily switch between two cameras, and you are still thinking what should be the default mode. Should it be the profile part of it, or should it be the back camera? That is a tough question, but many of them have cracked it, because when people open, they always want to see something which is reassuring, and they know how they look, so they know how the camera is working. A new frame, even if they are there and they are shooting it, still may look unfamiliar and may give them that part. That is why you see most of the default cameras open up with the face up part, and then you do it. But if you change it and you continuously, they change with you. That is a great person, because you looked at the personas that can develop. So, there are lots of these examples. Now, whenever you are handling a product, go through all these questions and think what could they have thought. That is a great training for yourself. Step 2 is understand needs. Needs is very different from want. And any good enterprise always takes the want and fulfills the need. If you service a want, you actually become a service. You are not a product. When you have that effort taken to translate a want to a need and satisfy it, then it makes. Take Word for example. Did anyone think they would need bold? So it's kind of a chicken and egg story, isn't it? But once they gave the feature bold, bold got used. Then people realized font also is important. Font and bold together. These things in the first versions of the word processors were not present. Microsoft saw a gap there. The other people were complacent, Lotus Notes and all. They made those features easy to use and buttonable. In the other ones, you have to really take effort to write bold and then close the bold or mark it. It was not user driven. So they extended the product from our first matrix because they understood the need. The need is to do it on the fly. People don't have a pre-planned method that I will bold it. They write it and they feel I should bold it now. So the extra effort will be increasingly more and more, and it will refrain people from doing it. To make a document really lively, that was a need that they perceived and they built that user interface. It may seem simple to you because you are using it every day, but if you think about it, how the hell did they think of so many icons, so many buttons, so many features? Do you think they all started with? I remember when I used the first Word, there were hardly 17, 18 features. Today there are so many that there are 17 categories and each of them have 17 features maybe. So it multiplies because they keep on adding different personas as they get the segments. But they started with the target audience, the college student, then the corporate worker, and so on and so forth. Today it's for everyone. Then you do customer research, that you have perceived needs. Does the customer really need it? Are you thinking on your own and what you need versus what the customer needs? You may not be the representative of your customer. If you are, if you have a high empathy quotient, great for you, but do not take it for granted. Validate with research, and that's the second most important step. That will lead you to the jobs to be done, because now you know everything, mostly. So you know what is the entire spectrum of activities that you need to do to make your product successful, product or service successful. Step 3, define core value, articulate benefits, USP. We keep on saying it's a transient, so what's the point of writing it down? The greatest point of writing it down is to not forget it yourself, not deviate, and most importantly to communicate so that every one of you are on the same page. What a beautiful page looks, if it is not specced out, will mean one thing to me, one thing to you, one thing to him. It will all be varied because all of us are unique in many ways. Finding the common ground, notifying it down, making it tabulated makes a huge difference in the ease of production. So it's very important to do these parts. And value is everything. Value is culture, value is proposition, value is ethics. Everything runs from the value of the organization. If you are not clear about it and if you are lucid or fluid about it, you will run into hitch things and all. That doesn't mean you are rigid. Each of these things is palpable to change, but challenge it that why should I change, what is it not serving, and then you have a benchmark to accept or reject. Do not accept anything easily. That's what the framework like this gives. That's what step 3 is about. Defining things, making things concrete, making things communicable, making things unique and benchmarkable. Everything is amenable to change, but you need pseudo-staticity to make sure that you're not going towards a moving goalpost. Otherwise, everything is fluid. You don't have a goalpost to score a goal on. Why do you shoot? This is to make sure that you're shooting in the right places and not shooting blanks. Step 4, it's a huge thing. Craft, value, this is what I was talking about. This is the actual step of looking at it. Now, when you are making the statement, it has to make sure that it covers these 5 aspects. It's for the customer, it is for who has a need, what is our product all about, what are the results that you expect out of it, what is the result that you are going to give out of it, and how is it differentiated from your competitors, specifically tying into this point of USP. So just like when you are saying it, so USP will come in about the need in the product, but also in the unlike part, because that's a differentiator that you need to harp on when you go and talk, because you will face competition in the part. How do you do that part? You do a validation. Validation is important for every step. We said validate everything. Remember? Hypothesize, validate. You identify, validate. Everything needs a validation. This is the humility point for every entrepreneur. Validate everything. Don't get carried on. It's very easy to get yourself sunk in your own thoughts and thinking, I am the next Messiah the world needs. Do you? You can be. If you validate, you will. Everything happens through iteration. Validation is the most important part of bearing sensibility in yourself and making sure things are happening onto that part. You again do it by feedback, by A/B testing, by testing across different user personas, different people in the same user persona group, and of course competitor analysis. You have claimed this, that I am unlike my competitors in so and so way. What is the actual analysis of it? Was it just words or is it really impactful? That's what you need to validate at every point of time. And simple. This is actually, if I was to draw a circle, this will be one point of the circle, and you go back again to the same step 1 or step 2 or step 3. You essentially refine based on feedback. Refining can happen at any of these previous stages, and you should be open on that part. And you iterate and improve. Iteration is what makes it important. Remember what we talked in one of the first lectures, I forgot, second or third. V equal to U plus Ft. Iteration is a tool by which your acceleration is kept at pace. And without acceleration, you're a sitting duck for anyone to overtake. That is the critical essence of that part. And you do it by simplifying things. Everything which is a complex is a problem. You simplify and you focus. There will be n number of problems. There will be something intellectually extremely challenging, and there is something your customers really need. Your focus should be on making sure the modal problems are gone, because that will get something which is challenging for you may not really matter to the user. Something which is aesthetic to you. Oh, we need to change the logo to make it more thing. That's your ego speaking. Maybe the customer doesn't care. Maybe it's a much secondary thing. Maybe he needs the delivery problem sorted faster. Maybe he needs a display of the breakup of the cost faster. They are simple things. They're not intellectually challenging, but maybe they are much more important. That validation and that checking and that simplification, you have to keep on focusing and doing it. This was an extremely important aspect of value proposition analysis. It's a continuation of what we did, and with that we essentially come to an end of this module. We'll see you in the module. Go through all the 4 phases or the 5 phases. I forgot how many phases we broke it up into. That doesn't matter. We'll bunch it for you in the right way. But this brings to the module that we wanted to cover about what is the basic first step towards setting up your own venture and your entrepreneurship things. See you in the next module. Thank you so much.